Friends and fellow pioneers. I have the immense privilege and pleasure to bring to you one of our mentors in sustainable living, Daniel Allen of Tiny Giant Lifestyle. And I just want to welcome you, Daniel. I'm so excited that we're having this opportunity this evening to talk. And I just want to start by saying how we met you.
All
Jason
right.
found you a couple of years ago through your YouTube channel looking for alternative building methods. And he's been a student of this topic for over 20 years, but he just kept looking, he kept digging for a more effective way. You know, he's an engineer and he was just like, there's so many things that just were not covered in all the other areas that he'd studied, he'd gone to workshops. And when he found you, he he was so excited. He's like, this guy, he's got the whole package. It's the whole deal. He was so blessed by your um, passion for helping people, but also how you were really able to solve so many problems with such elegance in that it's just simple. You've simplified and created a framework for sustainable building that is elegant and simple and basic, and anybody can do it. So we took some of your online courses, and then we had the opportunity to join you for almost 3 weeks in your workshop, and that was a fabulous and amazing experience. The people that you drew, the conversations we had was life-changing. It was so inspiring. And as you know, you've inspired our family in many more ways than that. But to keep it short, I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us, how did you get to Aircrete? How did you get here so we could find you with this amazing technology?
Well, like most things in life, it was not a straight path, but the Great Recession, gave me an opportunity to um, really focus in and find what we need to do. And I've done conventional construction of every type for over 30 years. And with the Great Recession, I started getting into alternative building, and we started building all these different alternative buildings. But at the end of the day, they were very expensive or very complicated, and very often they would not keep you comfortable. And I don't remember exactly. It was probably one of the YouTube rabbit holes, but somehow I found Aircrete, which has been around since at least the 70s, known as cellular cement, but it's not been widely used in the United States. And when I went to building with Aircrete, I realized that it was very easy, it's very teachable, very forgiving, and also very affordable. Especially right now with housing lumber, just a 2x4 is $8 right now, and it breaks down. And so I started the one of the first structures I built is this little Aircrete round cabin that I'm in right now, and I just absolutely fell in love staying in it because it's completely comfortable. A lot of people always want to say, "Hey, let's go completely passive," or "Let's do thermal mass," but the truth is that everything has to be appropriate for your climate, for your situation, and when you're talking about simplifying things, you really just want insulation and some way to moderate or control your climate, whether that's a window that you can open and close or it's a full blown mini split heat pump air conditioner. And so, Aircrete being both insulation and being the structure, it saves some money. And like I said, it's very forgiving. So, we started, attending some workshops. I'm a big believer in investing in myself and improving my life and being able to, as you say, fast track forward, because I believe that it's well worth learning from someone else's experience to get just shave off all that extra time. And so as we got moving forward, I found that most people attending other workshops, they couldn't actually build their structures. They had too many questions, too many doubts. And I started seeing where the hang points were. And so we just continued to simplify the process, and then started helping those people who had been through the other workshops achieve their their goals. And what we found was that they had followed the other plan where it was basically built like a third world structure with no provision for plumbing or electrical or anything, and people were just completely lost. And we started doing private workshops. We started getting those people moving forward. And, one thing led to another. And then the business I was in, I was building some very 3-bedroom quadruplexes, pretty large structures, because it's like four full-blown houses per unit. And it just worked out that some things went wrong in the finances on that project. And after 2 years of working out there, I wasn't able to get paid. I lost all my lines of credit. And eventually we did get the materials paid for, but 2 years worth of labor for all the crews was gone. And I was pretty much wiped out, completely starting over. And so I just kind of walked away from doing the conventional construction and started focusing on just helping people do alternative building. We started offering the public workshops, and because ultimately the single biggest barrier for most people in living the lifestyle that they want to live is a house, whether that's rent or a mortgage, which is a death pledge. That's the single biggest sticking factor for people. And it just seemed like that was the one place I could definitely help people with 30 years of regular construction industry experience. And so as people started finding the workshops, it's just kept building and building and building. And I've been able to meet amazing people like you, Aurora, and so many other people that came to our workshop that are really awake and they're ready to transform their life. They're done with the status quo and they're ready to take action. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, how I came to finding the Aircrete. And after experiencing it, building it, and both living in it, I just believe that it is one of the best solutions, because whether I go to Mexico or Tijuana or Puerto Rico, I can find Portland cement on the shelf. It's made in most every country on the face of the earth, and it's reasonably affordable. We finished the little round cabin in Terlingo for $26 a square foot, and that included the solar system and the air conditioning, the worm composting, flush toilets. And so it's a fully functional structure that you get to choose your comfort level in. And I've got videos on the YouTube channel comparing other forms of alternative construction, but ultimately this has been the most practical, achievable method that is it hits all the normal tick boxes plus a lot of other tick boxes, like being fireproof. It's not going to rot if you did get flooded. If it's round, there's no chance it's going to blow away in a storm. Like here where we're at, we have a lot of moisture. We have a lot of pests. So, rot, mildew, and rats that will actually get inside of walls and they'll hollow them out, and they'll basically turn your wall into a bathroom. So this also gives you a pest-free house that is, by the way, also a non-toxic house. It doesn't off-gas like, for example, earthships do, where you take a hydrocarbon meter in and the needle just goes boink because it detects so many hydrocarbons.
Yeah.
And
wow. Well, let's just repeat how much the square foot price, the estimate that you shared with people, so they can grasp that they can have a home that is not just fabulously strong and rodent proof, but it's also sustainable in that you don't have to heat and cool it the same way as you do a conventional home. It's durable. So let's just help them understand what you're saying, that for $26 a square foot they can get.
Right. First of all, to be completely transparent, one of the largest savings you can possibly do in any kind of building is to build it yourself. But this is a simplified form of building where your structure is your insulation, your finish coat goes on. And yes, for $26 per square foot, you can have your own house. And that price will vary depending on how you scale it. Believe it or not, if you build really tiny structures like this one, the price per square foot is actually a little bit higher,
Right.
but the overall price of entry though is still very low. And then when you go larger, the price I've seen drop as low as $19 per square foot. But that depends on what you're putting in the house. When I say $26 per square foot, we're talking a structure under 400 square feet, so a tiny house. We're talking heat pump mini split, so you can control the temperature. We're talking 3 solar panels on a tracker, a worm composting flush toilet system, basic laminate flooring, which for the same price could have been tile. We're talking about just a very basic finish. It's basically like a stucco finish. And if you want, for example, to put in marble countertops and walnut cabinetry, and you're going to have somebody build it for you, then that price is going to go up substantially.
Right.
So as a complete do-it-yourself project, that I believe anybody, if they will just decide that they're going to get it done no matter what, if they can make that decision, then they can do it without excessive number of skills, and with what I consider a medium grade finish. In other words, we're not buying gold or plated fans. We're not getting the super high end lighting. It's just, you're not the cheapest stuff either. That's just garbage, but kind of a mid grade whenever you go in to choose your fixtures. You don't go buy a $300 toilet. You try to limit that to about $120, and your flooring's got to be limited. So yeah, that's the price range, and that's what I would consider the entry point. And it can go up from there depending on what you want in that to make it your home.
So have you figured out what that would be like as a total cost? For example, like, do you have an example for, for the 120 square foot building, what would that total, like, did you round up some of the total costs for the project that we worked on? How big was that? Can you remind me the square footage on that one?
Well, I'll have to flip over my calculator. Gosh. I think that one was about 100 and, I'm just guessing. I think it was 104 square feet.
Figured out the workshop it was like $1,200 in materials or something.
Yeah, it was $1,200 finished basically, and that was a double shower house. So we have 2 showers, 2 shower valves, 2 of those Niagara toilets, which are a little more expensive but more ecological, and the other structure, the round structure, was 201 square foot, and at $26 per square foot, that included everything. The solar panels, that's literally finished. And so, price varies on what you're putting into it. And while I'm thinking about it, before I forget, the whole idea of sustainable, a lot of people complain immediately about manufactured Portland cement as being some kind of CO2 contamination that's going to destroy the earth, when in reality, you can use the gray water from your house and grow 12 trees and completely cancel that carbon footprint. And even that pales in comparison to what most people put out in just a month of driving to work.
Yes, you really, once you go down this path, we've been actively moving towards this for 12 years. And at the beginning, it's like we have all these, you start out with all these ideals, but then you look at even zero waste. I remember I wanted so badly to be zero waste. And then I realized that to be zero waste and have like reusable napkins and reusable, cloth and things, you have to have a lot more water also. So you have to look at what resources do you have available and what are you willing to use, because it takes an enormous amount of water to wash everything that you're reusable, like if you're doing cloth napkins and that type of thing. And so you start looking at just reducing even what you are using, right? So that you don't spend as much energy and resources replacing what you're supposedly not wasting anymore. And also just looking at the overall picture and not just thinking like you were talking about that idea, and the whole thing of even being rodent proof. Like if you get a home, if you build a sustainable home, let's say, and it's made out of materials where you have a termite infestation or any other kind of rodent problems, and then you either have to repair it or completely abandon the place because it got out of hand, then you wasted all that effort, all that time, all that money into something that in the end was not sustainable. And that's the kind of things that we'd like to help people open their eyes from, not just being more sustainable, but being less consumeristic and looking at the whole picture so that you can produce freedom for the short term and the long term. So you don't have like high maintenance things that are supposedly more sustainable. And you're a slave. You're just trading what you're a slave. You're exchanging. I'm a slave. You go from this consumerism to a different consumerism, and that's not sustainable in the end. So I really appreciate you sharing that. How can people that are interested in more sustainable technologies access your information, your journey, your comparisons of different technology? What's the best way they can find you?
Well, I'm the Tiny Giant Life on YouTube. That's probably the best place to start, honestly, because I've got videos where I compare alternative building styles, and I'm a little biased toward Aircrete because it so perfectly solves so many of the problems,
Yes.
and it gets people in a house. But I also try to realistically compare and point out the deficiencies in the other types of alternative building. And you can look at those videos along with learning how to make Aircrete itself. You can see the videos of the little bathhouse we built in this last workshop, as well as the workshop before that for the little tiny house or cabin, or you could call it a bug out location if you wish. That's really the best way. Otherwise, tinygiantlife.biz is the website. And either direction you go, you can find your way to the other from whichever one you land on.
Thank you for sharing. And YouTube is how we found you. I think someone had shared or mentioned something about Aircrete, and Jason was like, I must find out. And they mentioned your name, I think. And so we highly encourage you, if you're watching this video and you're interested in sustainable anything, sustainable lifestyle, Daniel has resources beyond just building, but especially for building. But one thing that Daniel and Jason and I share in common is that we have a more holistic view of sustainability, and we look at all areas and how to really untether from being a slave to consumerism, being a slave to the systems right now. And so that's what made our conversation so rich, is we could talk about so many things. And so when you access Daniel's information, you'll see that he lives breathes and not just talks sustainability. And so that's why we really appreciate, Daniel, that you took the risk to be public and be on YouTube and let people come and learn from you. I really appreciate the work that you're doing in the world, and how exciting it is to have people leave the workshop after 2 weeks so empowered and feeling like they can do this no matter what their skill level is. There's really nothing sweeter than empowering people, and we got to personally see that face to face when we went to the workshop. It was in October. It seems like just weeks ago, but so I just wanted to say another thing. I wanted to say that if Jason were here, he would say that one of the number one, for me, it's rodent proof and fireproof that I love about Aircrete. But the thing that Jason and I share that we absolutely love about Aircrete, beyond how accessible it is by means of how affordable it is, it's how accessible it is, like you mentioned, that it's available worldwide. And our vision is to empower people all over the world to become more self-sustainable. And there are some technologies that there's no way. If you don't have some of the things that we had learned before, you need a certain type of equipment or a certain type of material. And I'm from Venezuela, and it's just not going to happen to get like so specific and so exclusive in technology. It needs to be more appropriate technology and accessible to everyone for us to really get behind it 100%. Because we want to go back to my country and share this with people. We want to go to other countries that we support, work there and take that with us and be able to multiply and duplicate what we're doing. And so I just wanted to say how powerful it is that if you're watching this from anywhere in the world, you can do Aircrete. More than likely, it's so simple. And all you need to have, another thing that Daniel and we share is that we want you to understand that it starts here and here. And if you have the desire and the passion and you catch vision of what you can do, then it's possible. Really, anything is possible. If we can do it, you can do it. If Daniel can do it, you can do it. You saw that it was not in his plans to do Aircrete, but he found it and it changed his life. And we all go through those times where we want to break free, whether we had a situation financially or we had a situation with a natural disaster or something to where the systems failed us, then it's empowering in so many ways beyond just eco-friendliness, beyond just being more affordable. It is truly, Aircrete is truly a sustainable solution for shelter. And so we are so excited, Daniel, that we had this opportunity. Is there anything else that you can share just for people that are considering it and they're just one click away from checking out? They may not have ever heard of Aircrete, and this may be the first time. Like, is there anything you can share with them to help them more curious to dig in? Like, share a transformation that maybe you have seen a student go through that didn't know anything about Aircrete and they left your course, left your workshop.
Well, let me start with bringing up what you guys do, which is actually extremely important and maybe the most difficult part of this whole process, and that's getting clarity on exactly what you want. And I know you guys teach that, and I certainly encourage anyone out there to reach out to you guys and to get that clarity. Once you define what you do want, you can definitely, absolutely make it happen. And Aircrete is, it's not only sustainable in terms of finances. It can be a multi-generational home. It's sustainable in that you yourself, especially if you build it or oversee the building process, you can repair, fix anything. But more than that, on a deeper level, it's more sustainable to your spirit, because how many of us work endless hours in jobs, living a banker's dream? That is paying for the bankers to live their dream. A lot of times we do things, we rehearse things, we repeat things, we do what everyone else is doing, and they're not even our own ideas. So once you've made up your mind, you've got your clarity and you want to do it, then you can live off grid, you can live on grid, but you can reduce your cost. I mean, for the past few years before I started teaching the Aircrete, was living on what would be considered a poverty income. And yet I was out traveling and staying out of the country for 3 to 6 months at a time. And I got to do everything I wanted to do. And the primary reason is I had no expenses. And it's like a living retirement that I had designed my lifestyle for, hence Tiny Giant Lifestyle. And there's nothing more effective and more powerful than starting with building that. Now, we've had a young man, in fact, we had 2 young men that came with a whole family to this last event. And it wasn't the father or the mother who was interested in this, it was the kids. And they ranged from, I think, 14 to 19. And these kids are going to be building their own houses. And from how they participated in the workshop, they jumped in there. They worked through the problems. They didn't let anything stop them. And that's an attitude that is very critical, that when you hit a problem, when you hit a snag, you just keep moving forward. No matter how small the progress is, you just keep moving forward and you'll get there. And these kids are going to do it. On the flip side, we had a student come to the Tyler workshop this year here, and they have worked their whole life. And then they got divorced. They lost half their retirement. They made some bad business decisions, similar to me, actually. And so they don't have a lot to work with. So they wanted to get out of the city specifically. He wanted to get away from this craziness where people might freak out and burn their own neighborhood down. And he wanted something he could maintain without a lot of effort and upkeep and taxes. And he wanted the peace and the freedom from all the crime in the city. So he came to our workshop. He said, I'm pretty sure I could do this because I was handy, but I needed to get my hands on it and know what it feels like, what's correct, what's not correct. That way I could remove all the doubt. He left this workshop, and within 2 weeks, he had already put up a new Aircrete dome in his case, because he really wanted a dome because he's very artistic, he's very creative, and he likes the shapes that a dome gives him. But in just 2 weeks, he already had his structure done, and he was beginning to finish it and put in the nice furniture. And I want to say that it was about 200 square feet. And I, by myself, and of course, I have the experience, but if I just consistently work where I come out in the morning, in an example of a dome, if I come out, I can empty the molds, clean the molds, put them together, and make 8 batches of Aircrete, refill the molds. Then I can go cut the blocks. I can put them all up, and I can do all of this in an 8-hour day. And if I stick with this and just stay steady at it for 8 hours a day, then I can finish a 450 square foot 1-bedroom house in about 2 weeks by myself. Wow. And it's just about it's about staying after it and just not rushing, but staying consistently moving at a pace that you can move at that's comfortable for you without making a lot of mistakes or to where you're wearing yourself out. Because if you wear yourself down too much, then you wind up having more unproductive days and your total productivity goes down. And but this man, he went out, and at 76, can you imagine at 76, this man went out and built his own home.
Wow.
And he literally he went off grid. And so generally I tell people, if you can lift 10 pounds and climb a ladder without freaking out or to being terrified, or maybe even a scaffold, and if you wanted to clip onto something, then you can do this. If you can't do that, but you've got a good mind, you can hire basically unskilled labor, and as long as you're willing to fire people that won't do what they're told or won't work, then it doesn't even add that much cost at say $10 or $12 an hour. It doesn't really add that much cost to getting the hard part or the shell of your house up and done. And so I just encourage, if you're feeling like you want to move in that direction, you want to go off grid, you want to get away from the craziness, or you just simply want a better life, which in my opinion is the best reason to do it,
right?
And do everything out of love and not fear, then you can do this. Now, we built a slip form cast structure, and I really, really, really can't express how much better I believe those are than building blocks and stacking blocks up. It's faster. It saves a lot of potential errors. It's something that even just one person can do by yourself. I mean, imagine this. Like, we have a student who works a full-time job. They bought some land that's about 2 hours out of town. So they drive out to the property on the weekend. And then also during the week, though, he's able to find enough time. If he goes ahead and makes the sacrifice, he can get up, drive out, mix up enough batches of Aircrete to pour his forms all the way around, and then he can go to work and he can live his life. So he's building his house while living his life at the same time. And sometimes that's very important to be able to do both, as opposed to, taking off a week or 2 weeks and then trying to cram the whole process in there, even though you can. Sometimes it's just more comfortable if you have the option to move at the pace that your life needs to move at. So, that's two examples. The kids are doing it. The old man did it, and of course, I'm getting to be an old man, so I appreciate the extra aches and pains and struggles that come with that older age. But it's achievable, and we have a lot of people who either through natural disasters in Louisiana from the hurricanes, or people who have unfortunately experienced divorce are having to rebuild their lives. And
Right.
this is something, this little structure here, for example, you can come out and you can put one of these up in 10 days, move in ready as basically like a bedroom by yourself. And then you could build another one. Maybe you could even do two of these in 10 days on a larger scale if you really work. To build something like this literally just takes an hour and 15 minutes each day for 10 days, and you can do it. So you could probably build two of these, make one basically it'd be like living in a master bedroom, but it would get you on the land immediately
Right.
and in a position where you're not shelling out the money for rent or a mortgage, or it simply gets you off the street or out of your car and into something, because these are infinitely more comfortable than an RV or staying in your car. Even though it's been freezing here the last few days, there's been no heat or anything in this structure, and it actually is perfectly comfortable. And so you can get something like this set up quick. You can get something set up easy, and then it doesn't have to be the end all of what you do. This can become the closet, if you wish, later on for a bigger house,
That
if
would
you're
be
careful
lovely.
and yeah, make your plans, think ahead, and design everything so that you can create this entire structure, and it becomes a different part later. Or like I said, maybe you're living and you got a little cooktop in your master bedroom, and then you build on with your living room and your regular kitchen and whatnot. So, you know, you can do this. It's just a matter of making up your mind to do this. And whether it's Aircrete or not doesn't matter. But I would encourage you, if this resonates with your heart, you need to move forward. If you're looking for, um, you know, agreement from the people around you in the external world, you're probably never going to find it. You've got to
Right.
start and look inward. You've
Right.
got to get clarity of what you want, and you've got to get your house built, whatever it is. And, I'm not sure how much time we have before things get even more odd in this society, but the fact is that you can do it to have a better life, and you can fast track that process by learning how to get the clarity you want and learning how to build the building. And um, I'm going to say this, it may sound a little far out, but when you're thinking about these processes, if you're excited about it, it makes your heart sing, you should definitely move forward. If, on the other hand, you feel pains somewhere in your body, something's going on, you might just tap those areas and invite whatever emotion is behind that to come forward and be revealed. Because sometimes we have programs that are running in our life, or agreements we've made with ourselves or with others, and our subconscious is running that program in a continuous loop to serve you, but it's because you made the agreement on something that may be contradicting what it is you truly want to do with your heart. So just be mindful that anything new is going to have resistance, and you can make that a lot easier if you allow a moment for that to just come up and even pass, just to acknowledge it. And then sometimes things come up that you might need to say, hey, well, now that I'm an adult, this is what I choose now, and let that program change. That way you're not fighting yourself on it. And, we had, I don't know what the youngest child was that was helping us out at the workshop, probably Lucas. And, even a young child can actually get their hands in this and participate and have a meaningful part of building a structure like this. So, don't let excuses get in the way of living your dream, securing a secure, safe, and prosperous, beautiful, sustainable life for you and yours.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that about the resistance and the clarity. I have been, when I'm in my zone, I've been described as a jackhammer. And when, Jason is like a wrecking ball. But the reason is that we have clarity. And that is, one of the things that we can serve people well with is we've overcome a lot of challenges. But if you have a vision, and I say that you can't just have an ideal that sustainability is the right thing to do. You have to have a conviction. And one of the things that God allowed me to see when we were going through some very challenging times is that ideals are based on fear, generally a fear of what you don't want, and convictions are based on truth. And so whatever times or whatever projects you commit to with a foundation of conviction, you are unmovable, unshakable, and it doesn't matter what the world out set, like you were talking about getting affirmation from the outside world. We look like lunatics for the last 12 years, but we were on track to fulfill a vision that we felt like God had called us to do. And it got really crazy at times, and we didn't have a lot of support. We learned, in the last few years, how to find the support we needed and how to get on a fast track and how to organize ourselves even better. But when you're starting out, if you don't have clarity or conviction, I think you have to have either or. We had more clarity, and then as we gain more conviction as to what were our non-negotiable things, and we gained capacity, then we have been able to do so much more in the last few years than in the previous 10 years, because all those things aligned. And it's important, for people that are in the beginning to understand that clarity is a fuel that drives you, that conviction that this is the right thing for you and this is the answer for you, it drives you. And then you don't really have to worry about what other people are doing, what other people are thinking. It works, and it's going to work for you, whether you're 76 or 80 or a teenager like you shared. It's so empowering to understand that it all starts with a vision, a clear strategic vision for what you're after. And if Aircrete serves you well for having sustainable shelter, then, like you mentioned, you can go just basic survival and you live in that, small building, like a hotel room, save you tons of money instead of renting somewhere, and then it's paid for. I remember when we first moved, we moved several states away, and we were in a hotel for like 2 weeks trying to get kind of set up to be off grid. And, if we had known about Aircrete, if we could tell ourselves all that money could have gone towards an actual structure that we could use now, like you were talking about, as a pantry, a closet, or something like that. But I do want to add that, we talk about survival is the first kind of thing that you need to get clarity on. And then resilience is the next step. But if you don't know how to clearly survive and you're not committed to survival, there's no way you're going to become resilient, because you just don't graduate. You're not going to make it. You have to get really basic into, like you were saying, like whatever crisis you're into, how to survive. Then what's the next step? Have a vision for what the next step is so you can get some resilience under your belt. And then ultimately you achieve freedom. And that's the progression that we share with people through our sustainable pioneering work, is survival, resilience, and freedom. And you have to start inside. That's the only way that you're going to really become resilient, is start inside. And that way, no matter what the world throws at you, no matter what the crisis is, you're strong inside and you can sustain the challenges, whether it's time, money, and resources, or support from other people. And that's what we really love about Aircrete, is empowers people to not need a lot of support, and they can get their structure built. And maybe that will, you can show people what you did and you're like, okay, can you help me build the rest of the house? You can have that very quick return on your investment, and also instant gratification. It's quite incredible. Well, thank you, Daniel, so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you and to share you with the rest of our world. And everyone, I just wanted to remind you that the links that he shared about his website, where you can find out about his courses, online courses and workshops, upcoming workshops. He's got one coming up in the spring. You can click on the link that is in the details. And if you're interested in following his YouTube channel to learn more about the work that he's doing to empower people to become more free with finding sustainable means to create a home themselves, or get some help and build an Aircrete home and off-grid shelter, then he has amazing resources that you can tap into. So thank you so much for tuning in. Check out his information. And Daniel, was there anything else, last thoughts that you wanted to share? I believe I lost video on you, but I think your audio is still working.
Yeah, I just put up the little picture of the structure that you guys come out and we're building at the workshop. It's the little profile picture here. I can't really share. Yeah, I can't share a picture any other way, but I'm hoping you all can see that as the audience. These can be beautiful little structures. I would like to mention too, even though we built a Pueblo style flat roof here, that could just as easily be a double pitch roof. You could cast this into the mold so that it looked like lap siding. You can literally make these look very conventional or completely alternative. And it's another really nice thing about building your own home is you get to build something that fits you. Something that's very comfortable, something that nestles and supports you. And what it gives back is not just security, but it also gives back a strength of character, a confidence in yourself that you're going to be all right no matter what. Because regardless of the circumstances, regardless of if you had to move, you can easily rebuild. You're not dependent upon a massive amount of money. And, even though these are not conventional and banks may not knowingly finance these, you can certainly, if I had 50 of these, I could bet you I could sell them in the next month to people that would be more than willing to buy something like this owner finance. So it's also gives you a windfall of money later on if you decide that you want to move or you need to move. You don't lose anything. You come out ahead because you're going to be able to sell this for no less than twice of what you paid for it. And in today's world, especially if you financed it to somebody, you're going to come out 3 times better off than just selling it at double the price of what you built it. So, you just can hardly go wrong building something like this, even if it is a bug out cabin. And I found many times that people that don't think they can live in tiny houses, which these are a little bigger than just tiny, but they find that they no longer need or have a desire for a large space to live in, and that the freedom and the lightness in their heart uh, puts them on a whole nother level. And that's a reward that you couldn't put a price tag on, period.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You know what I did while you were, I found a way to share the photos. Let me see if I can add it really quick, and we'll end with that photo. Let's see.
There.
So there it is. And the invite. So you can go to the, for our viewers, if you want to go to the Tiny Giant Lifestyle YouTube channel, and you can watch several videos have been, you've been posting several, you have like 4 or 5 videos about the event that just, that we just had, that we just finished, and some wrap ups and the invitation for the next workshop. And I also want to say that one last thing, that the Daniel, you're so generous with your workshop and the courses, and I just want to tell anyone that is considering it, the value that you get is far beyond what the actual investment is, 5 to 10 times more. So if you're considering investing in an online course or considering investing in going to the event, you will not be disappointed. It is a wise investment to learn from someone like Daniel that's gone before you and doesn't just build these, he uses them for his own, he uses them himself. He's experienced the benefit of it. This is not just a business to Daniel, it's a lifestyle. So on that note, thank you so much, Daniel. And let us know if you have any. Oh, by the way, did you want to mention that one project you've got coming up so that our viewers can be on the lookout for a project you've got going on in the background?
Absolutely. One other major foot that you need under you to live an alternative lifestyle is a source of income, preferably one where you're not an employee, which in my mind, an employee is equal to slavery because you don't have a choice of what you're going to do with each day. I mean, what would you do tomorrow if you could do anything you wanted to and money was not an option? Just think about what you would do. Would you go to work tomorrow? Probably not. You would do something that's meaningful to you. And to that end, we are putting together a course. I've spent thousands of dollars in videos and training courses and traveling to seminars. And, everybody seems to have an aspect or a copyrighted something that they want to stick to, and they make that their identity in their course. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting the very best ideas of all of that knowledge that I spent thousands of dollars on into a course to allow people to rapidly and immediately on a shoestring budget as a solopreneur without hired help and employees to build an online business and start getting their finances sorted right away. Once you're off grid, you're living a sustainable life, and you have a paid for house, honestly, it does not take that much money. And success on an online business is not that hard. But we're not going to let it be kind of one-sided where, oh, this is how you put a web page together, or a separate course for, oh, this is how you do copywriting. We're going to roll everything that you need to know into one course, including helping you find your idea and your value you can bring. And as a thought experiment, I'll just share a quick story. A man was training his dog to not use the bathroom in the house. There's dog whisperers. There's people that charge $100 a day to train people's dogs. And the truth is that this man was not the most expert in his field, but he knew so much more than at least 1,000 people below him. And so he helped 1,000 people below him up to the level where he was with his understanding, with his uniqueness and his way of presenting information. Because not everybody likes every personality, and there's a teacher for everybody, and there's always somebody that is not as far along in the process as you are. So in that, you can find ways to create courses, which are my favorite because you can create residual income while you sleep, and they automatically go on day after day, even if you're on the beach in Cancun. But you can also sell products. It's not limited to just courses, but finding your idea, finding something that you can bring value, because, I guarantee you have something that I need, and I want you to get out there and I want you to present it and make it available to the world, because if you don't, you are actually stealing from the rest of the world your uniqueness and your value. And I just simply want to help people bring that value out into the world and get this financial thing sorted. Because once you get your house sorted and you got your basic finance and income sorted, then you're in a very good position to be truly abundant and to take the time to do deeper personal and spiritual development. And out of that will stem a wealth of completeness, happiness, joy, and well-being like you've never known. And that personal work is very difficult to get done. That spiritual work is difficult to get done when you're always struggling over a place to live and finances. So it's my hope that this upcoming course will actually accelerate and put people on a very fast path to generating their income and having their home and their needs met. And these buildings that we're building at these workshops, we're actually building a personal development center out here. So as more structures go up for more workshops, eventually people are going to be able to come out and have a place to stay and be taken care of, eat good meals, and focus on that spiritual development, that most important aspect of their lives. And so, keep an eye out for that if that's something that interests you, because, I'm going to do my best to take the very best of everything that I've learned and roll it into a very to the point, rapid development process where, in theory, if you're developing a course, you could have something up, running, and selling within a couple of weeks, or you could be finding out and getting paid to do your own market research while you start a business, as opposed to having to pay someone to do market research. You can actually turn the idea of finding your business into immediate income. So, yeah, I guess that's really all I need to say is that, keep an eye out for that if that's something that interests you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for giving us a heads up for what's coming soon. And if you want, I'll invite you back if you'd like to join me again. We'll talk about it, and you can share maybe some highlights or show us around what the course is going to bring for people. But I agree, it's incredibly important, and economics is one of the 12 pillars of producing freedom that we teach people in our Pioneering Success Blueprint Masterclass, because they need to understand the dynamics of money, because a lot of the times people just think about money as income to buy what they want, but there's so many different considerations that sometimes you can focus on saving money at the expense of being effective.
Right.
And if you can just make money, then you can create a different type of abundance. There's a whole completely different dynamic in saving money and making money. And there's also a different dynamic when you take the time to really look at what do you need. And, I'm partial to minimalism, but, what do you truly need? And then the value of that to you, when you actually have the clarity of how much that means to you, then all the clutter of all these other things that you're told you need or you thought you needed, that just kind of hushes. The noise of consumerism hushes. And then, then you think, well, I take great joy and pride in, in, for example, the shelter. Then you invest more in that, right? Or, just identifying with what's important to you, and then having, means to invest in that, having the peace that that's what you need to make money for and invest in, and then it's going to pay you back, because like you talked about, just, we are not just bodies, you're a spirit that has a soul and lives in a body. And if you consider the whole being as you're creating a sustainable lifestyle, then it is just much more refreshing. And I will add that when people find that work that they're meant to do in the world, and they're calling to serve humanity with the unique gifts and strengths that God has given them, it adds so much more, right, than just even representing a product or a company. to just be able to find your unique voice. And that, like you said, even if you don't need very much, the amount of pleasure and purpose that you get from doing that work is incredible. And a lot of times what happens as a result and byproduct is that you thrive. People are just wanting what you have, and they love learning from you compared to other people that may not be as fulfilled by that work. They may not have like a strong of a calling to do that. And that's true for me. And we've invested, you mentioned it just takes thousands of dollars, and we've experienced that we've invested tens of thousands into a development to find really truly what it is that drives us to serve people and to have that really clear vision in entrepreneurship to serve the world. There's such an opportunity. And like you said, you're watching, you have something that we need, and you're robbing yourself the opportunity, you're robbing us the opportunity to have that exchange. And so we want to encourage you in that as well. So be on the lookout for Daniel's course, and be on the lookout for the launch of our course. And together you can have just an awesome blueprint to move forward and not just survive, but thrive. That's what we want to see you do, is thrive, flourish, and prosper wherever you are, wherever you decide is the place that you need to be. We want you to thrive in that, and we want to support you through our free resources or with our courses if you decide that you are ready to invest in yourself to get on the fast track. That's what we're here for. But that's the conclusion to this wonderful broadcast that we've been blessed to have the opportunity to share with you. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment in the platform that you are watching from. And if it's a question for Daniel, I'll forward it to him. And if it's a question for us, I'll be happy to answer the questions there. But thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Daniel, for your generous visit. It's been a continued pleasure to get to know you and watch you grow in what you're offering, and to see the vision that you have for helping people grow beyond just the shelter, the areas of shelter. So, and I also always like to tell our viewers a final blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you, shine his face towards you and be gracious to you, and most of all, give you shalom peace. God bless you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Aurora.